I want to welcome everyone here. My name is Derek Buchler. I'm from the Mzala Nxumalo Center in Pietermaritzburg. I'm actually standing in this evening for our CEO, Jabulani Sithole. Unfortunately, he's been held up and we're not sure if he's going to make it in time. So unfortunately, you'll have to settle for me. I'm very happy to be here this evening. It means a lot for me. I was part of a political school in the Eastern Cape. I'm from Emond. And I worked with NUMSA in that political school, adult education at Mercedes-Benz, the capitalists who have been here for many years. And I hadn't in my life realized that I would be standing here and talking about or being part of a celebration about Jabu Ndlovu. So welcome everyone. I just want to observe, we particular mention to the chairperson of the Jabu Ndlovu Foundation, Dr. Mkhize, welcome. The deputy chair, Mr. Aubrey Mngcobo, welcome to you, sir. From Kasatu, Zimasile Ngiyama, welcome. And the SACP, Ru Maglala, welcome you. And also Comrade Nyeza from NUMSA. So I've now observed protocol as much as, and our own chair, I mustn't forget that. The chair of the Mzala Nxumalo board, John Pampalis, at the back there. So he's here this evening. And I'm not going to spend much time. I want to talk about where this event fits into the whole week. Yesterday we were in Durban with Omar Bacha, Cedric Nunn, and Rafs Mayet. And there was a program about the art of activism. And they spoke about their years in their struggle and their photography and what that meant to them. And we had what was amazing is we had a lot of young people. And that is something the center has been trying to encourage, is to bring young people into a space where we have rigorous debate and not just sloganeering. I call them Twitter politicians, you know, a short slogan and you spend. And it was a very interesting evening because what we realized is there's a lot of history that is out there that's not being told, that's not recorded. You have the images like Omar Bacha has, but when he started talking about Ngobo from Inanda and what happened in Inanda, then you start beginning to hear histories. And I think tonight is one of those moments again where we are celebrating a life and are able to have another piece of history told. And I think this hidden, Eddie Webster will talk more to it, but the hidden voices, I think, is a very important project because it's bringing out those voices that are often overlooked because of the shadows of the Mandelas, the Tambos, and whatever. I'm not putting them down, but I'm just saying that there were people on the ground who were fighting everyday community battles, not just apartheid, but also the battles that were part of that system of repression. Tonight we're launching this book, and on Thursday we're going to be in Johannesburg, and we're going to be having a dialogue there with the question, why foundations, activism and change from the armchair of comfort. And what we want to be having in that dialogue is, what are foundations for? What is their purpose? One of the criticisms from young students that we've had is that the foundations are there, but when they were busy with fees must fall, there was no one, you know. So what are the roles of foundations today, other than the good work that they do, but what is their role in terms of the political life? I think now more than ever, when we see what is going on in South Africa in terms of the state and the people, the gap is as wide as it's always been, you know. And I think that these opportunities are good. And then on Saturday we are in Durban with the Mbumba Fiesta, and that's being held in Bulwer Park. We've invited 3 orphanages in the area, and it's a whole day of activity and ending with a concert in the evening. If you look at our Facebook page, it's quite a lineup, and all different types, jazz, maskandi, and so on. It's free. So if you're in Durban and you want to go to the concert, it's free. You can come through. It starts at 9 in the evening and ends at 7. The main concert starts at around 3 o'clock. So that's the week that we did. It was significant. Normally the Mzala commemoration week happens in February when Mzala died. But we moved it this year to June. Also significant, but because he was part of the June 16 detachment that left after 76 uprising. So it's also a special week for us. I'm not going to labor the point anymore. I'm not going to go into talk about Mzala, because then I won't stop. But the center is in Maritzburg. We unfortunately in the bourgeois northern park, but hopefully we'll move from there pretty soon. But do look us up or go to our Facebook page. And I'd like to extend an invitation. If people want to have an event of one form or another, and I'm talking about whether it's about community struggles or union issues, or they want to have a dialogue or similar to what we had yesterday, please let us know. And if we can do something with our budget, we want to be involved in spaces where rigorous debate's going to take place. That said, I'll like to go over to the program now, and I would like to call upon Eddie Webster, who is here. I'm not sure if many of you, I'm sure some people will know Eddie Webster, but I'll let Eddie do the talking. And so he's going to talk about the Hidden Voices series. There's 2 books that were brought here tonight. We're launching the one, but there is another of a NUMSA comrade. So I'll leave it over to Eddie. Thanks.
Good evening, comrades, colleagues, friends. It's a great privilege to be here in this historic hall to launch a reprint of the life of Jabu Ndlovu. Flashes in her soul, the life of Jabu Ndlovu. I wanted to do 3 things this evening. I want to tell you about our project, and then I want to tell you briefly about the book, and then thirdly, to say why I think it's important. What lessons do we learn from history? They say that history is a great teacher. Unfortunately, it has no pupils. So I want to just say what's the lesson we draw from that. So firstly, about myself and our project. I'm a professor at Wits University. I'm a Mzala, I'm an old man. So I remember I was present at the formation of the Metal Allied Workers Union, MAU. Started here in Pietermaritzburg and then in Durban. This project is an attempt to try and record what we call the hidden voices. Those comrades, those women, those men, whose lives were very important, but they're not in the history books. And we called it hidden voices because during the apartheid period, there were a lot of ideas, there were a lot of movements which never became part of what we call knowledge. Books, recognized. So with my colleague, Karen Pampalis, who's at the back there, who manages the project, and she has copies of the 2 books we've produced so far. So the first one in our series was called Cruel Beyond Belief, A Working Life, by Alfred Temba Kabula. Now, he was an Mbongi. Now, we don't see, and as an Mbongi, he would speak at the union meetings. He would evoke the ancestors, he would call on the ancestors, and he would talk about our history. So he was, we argue, an intellectual. He was an intellectual, a man of ideas. That's what an intellectual is. And this book was published by the Metal Allied Workers Union in 1989, and we republish it, our first book in the series, with a preface or introduction by our current Minister of Transport, Blade Nxumalo. Interestingly, Dr. Nxumalo at the time was an activist. I'm talking about the 1980s, and he translated the book from isiXhosa into English. So that's the first book, and this is the second one. So the idea is that we would try and bring into the open these hidden voices. Our next book is also on 2 union activists, one from Mahlabatini actually, who's now dead, another one from Sharpeville. And it's a series called Hidden Voices. So that's about our project and why it's called Hidden Voices. The book is about Jabu's life, and it was written at the time as a way of paying tribute to this remarkable woman. She started her working life in kitchenware. What was the name again, John? You know the name. What was the name of the company? Prestige Kitchenware. Does it still exist, by the way? Or is it closed down? It's closed down. She started work there in 1971, and like many people, she'd been pushed off the land, looking for a job. She found a job in this factory, and it was here that she was introduced to the Metal and Allied Workers Union. I want to come back to that because the important thing about the union is that the emphasis, the focus was on building democratic leadership. That if you were a leader, you were accountable to your members. You were there to serve. And the idea was that if workers came together collectively into this union, they could begin to challenge even the apartheid system. An injury to one is injury to all. That was the basic idea, a very simple idea, a very powerful idea. And she was drawn into that and became eventually a leading shop steward. But Jabu's commitment was not just to her fellow workers and their struggle for basic rights and dignity. It was also a concern for the community, for this community here, where she lived. And she came involved then in the lives, and there was a very strong youth movement at the time, young people, including her son, who was sadly assassinated. But because of the conflict that was emerging at that time, getting involved in community meant that she became a target and was assassinated in 1989 when they firebombed her house and killed her husband Jabulani and her daughter. So all three of them died in that tragic assassination and attack. That's what the book really describes. I hope we're offering it as a special offer tonight at 80 Rand. I hope that you will be able to buy a copy and to share that, because it's important that this is part of our history, which is the third point I made. What is the lesson that we draw, and why is it important that we publish or republish a book now, at this time, 2018? I think there are three things about her life that really, to me, speak to the present. Because, you know, the present, we always see the past through the present. In a way, the present is our history. And I think the question really is, what do we learn from that? And the first thing is, I think, what I drew from when I read that book and was very moved by, is firstly her commitment. Her commitment to serve. Not personal, private, getting tenders for herself to accumulate. Her idea of leadership was that you serve others. You're there as a servant of the people. That's the first thing. I think that's the first lesson. And so her idea of being a shop steward, of being a community leader, was that he was there not for her personal benefit, but to serve the people. That's the first thing, her commitment. The second thing that struck me about her, and the lesson I want to draw from that, is her courage. You know, it's easy when times are tough just to go along with what everyone else is saying and doing, but she stood up. And she didn't waver. And that's why she became a target. She became a target because she had certain values. And she stuck to those values. And she paid the ultimate price, as did her family. Pay that price. So courage, I think, is the second quality, I think, the lesson I draw from her life. And the third one is about organization and democracy. I think that what stood out for me, and I know of her only through what I read in the book, is that if you want to challenge injustice, if you want to challenge inequality, then you have to organize. Not just as one person, but together to organize. And so I draw from her that if we're going to deepen and consolidate our democracy, which is such an important victory, if we're going to make democracy work, what we need from our leaders are women and men who are accountable, who serve the people. And that's what her early training in the Metal and Allied Workers Union. Of course, the Metal Allied Workers Union then became NUMSA, and I gather we've got many comrades from NUMSA here, but it's that tradition that I draw from her life, her commitment, her courage, and her building of democratic organization. And she paid the ultimate price for that, and I think that's why it's such a privilege and why it's such an important moment for us to celebrate, commemorate the life of comrade, sister Jabu Ndlovu. Thank you.
I think we move now closer to the woman who Jabu was, and I'm going to ask her daughter, Luchle, to come up and share part of that with us.
I'm tempted to say Amandla. Mandla. Mandla. It feels as though it wouldn't be a celebration of the life of Jabu if I didn't say that. So for me, that is the note in which I would like to greet. On behalf of the family, my name is Luchle Ndlovu Shateleka Mbanjwa. I am with my brother Usanele over there. We are the two remaining siblings. Khona ubaba wethu esihamba naye, ubaba omncane wethu nangu, uMzwandile Ndlovu. Ngihamba nomyeni wami uDennis Mbanjwa. And these are the people who are present on behalf of the family. I will switch and please allow me to use both English and Zulu. Ngiyajabula ukuba la. Angijabuli ngoba ngime kwi-podium. I do this often. I was tempted to draft a speech because I knew we would have to say something on behalf of the family. But then I realized when it comes to writing speeches, I am very bad. So I always rather speak from the heart. It makes more sense to me as it comes. And Karen, I must apologize that I know I've been a problem child with the communication. We have been part of this initiative from the onset. So when the initiative started at the beginning, we were contacted as the family. Ukuthi incwadi izoreprintwa. Ithema izoreprintwa incwadi sasesivumelana sayixoxa noSanele. Sathi, is it something we should allow? And why we should and why we should not? We then realized that we've come a long way. It's 29 years, 30 years next year. So it's been 30 years ever since the attack of our home. It still feels like yesterday, by the way. For us, it will always be a yesterday's event. I just counted as I was sitting there that it's already 30 years. It's unbelievable. But with the memory so fresh, it will always be a yesterday's memory. We as a family, we always want to celebrate the lives of our family. My mother, Jabu, my father, Jabulani, my sister, Ukumbu, my brother, Ulinda. The three obviously killed in the 1 year and the other one in the next year, Ulinda. So for us, it is a painful memory, but it is also a proud memory. I'm glad that the launch of the book is taking place now. I'll tell you why. Some initiatives mean well, but they take place at the wrong time. And I wouldn't be standing here today if it was 10 years ago. I know that I said my parents were killed 30 years ago, but 10 years ago, I would not stand here. The reason I say that, we were kids when they were killed. It was traumatic when they were killed. These were our biological parents. These were our family. Even though for some they were just fellow shop stewards, they were just community members. But for us, this was our parents, and we were teenagers at the time. It was an emotional moment. And the only way we knew how to deal with the situation was to block it from our memory so that we pretend it did not happen. That is the way that we dealt with the situation. So I am saying 10 years from 1989, I would not have stood up here until I got the counseling that allowed me to accept my mother as an inspiration, rather than a mother that neglected us to a point that she was killed, that my father was killed, that my sister was killed, that my brother was killed. Because that is how we looked at her in the first 10 years. Remember, we were kids, and we didn't understand what she stood for. So for us, this is how we looked at our mother. And the counseling I'm talking about is not going to a psychologist, because that was tried and it didn't work for me. I went to various psychologists because of that trauma, but it still didn't work for me. They spoke English and tried all sorts of things, but it never worked for me. The only counseling that worked was for someone to sit me down and explain to me who my mother was, and why she died, and why she was a shop steward, why she was an activist in the community. This was the only time I could make peace with the fact that Jabu is the person that I can allow her to be an inspiration and to now be my hero. You would have had this launch and the family would not have been present if it was at that time. And you probably would not have understood why. So I'm saying it is good that the launch is taking place now. And we did welcome the project. On that note, for us, we keep saying, even though I might sound like a stuck record, but it's always a healing process for us because we want to continuously celebrate our parents. We celebrate them as biological parents, but we also want to celebrate their work and who they were to other people. And the work that they did in the community, even though we feel that they could have been celebrated much more. So when these events come, for us, it's an event that we jump for. We will stop everything and celebrate them. And by the way, we understand that it's not all history that is going to be our heritage. We understand that this would be a heritage to us. It is a heritage. You know, I went through a phase when I worked in one of the departments. I kept asking myself a question. You know, I'm a member of a union. Do I ever want to be a shop steward or not? Why should I be a shop steward? You know, and history haunted me. Do I want to be a shop steward? And I looked at my kids and my family, and I thought, you know what, is this going to be a repetition of my family if I became a shop steward one day? But fortunately, that question came at the right time. I had already understood why my mother became a shop steward. So when I became a shop steward, more than anything else, nobody understood. I wanted to taste the life that my mother lived. I wanted to understand what it was like. I found myself exactly in the same position. Here is the woman who is supposed to be a mother, who is supposed to be a wife, who is supposed to work a full-day job, and who is supposed to have the interest of the workers at heart. I kept asking myself, how did she do that when I found that I did not even have enough time to myself with my kids because of work? So how was I going to do that? And I said, you know what, the only way I'll find out how she did it is when I became a shop steward. And then I got to understand. We had a family that became divided after our parents died. They were divided because some of the family members felt that my mother had put everyone at risk. We had some family members who felt that my mother was a hero. And we were 13 and Sanele was 11. So what did we know at the time? We now had two divisions of the family and we didn't know what to understand. We didn't know what to think of our parents, but there's one thing that we did know, that we wanted our parents back and that was it. We don't care what everybody else thought. We just wanted our parents. They were not there. We were vulnerable. We didn't know where to go. We didn't have a home because the home was burnt down. So what was going to be a future for us then? For us, those were the immediate questions, while everybody else in the family was divided because of the two families. When we both went through the healing process and we decided, you know what, our mother was actually a hero. Again, the family was divided because we are now had suddenly acknowledged our mother as a hero and as an inspiration to us. So now again, we found ourselves at the center. Some of the family was on our side and some of the family was now saying, oh, so now you want a repetition. You also want to die. You also want to put some of the family members at risk again. So it has been a long process. It's been 30 years. You get invited to events. You are acknowledged as Jabu Ndlovu's daughter or as Jabu Ndlovu's son. And people think it's all glorious to be invited. It's actually not as glorious because it means you must stop everything and recall the 30 years, starting from 1989, May 21, because those memories must now be right in front of you so that you are able to locate whatever event or whatever the program taking place at the time. We have done that. It has given us a process to heal. We are now at a point where we really believe and acknowledge and proudly say I'm Jabu Ndlovu's daughter. Despite the circumstances, despite growing up without a mother, despite growing up, you find yourself a black girl, you find yourself the next day with a white family, the next day with an Indian family, the next day with a black family. So you have a confused life for 30 years until you actually find and make peace exactly with who you are and who your parents are. We want to support the project going forward. We hope that the launching of the book is not just going to be a once-off event. And I'm also again saying I'm glad that the launching of the book is taking place now, because the history curriculum should actually be including these kinds of events, these kinds of contributions, and should be the content of history. We should not be worried about anything else, but this is what should be the content of history that should be in the curriculums now. So with these projects, we hope that it's not just going to be NPO projects that are just going to be launching books, which people are going to find and read by coincidence, but you need to be strategic to ensure that people actually read this history. And the only way to do it, if we are indeed saying it is for our generation and for our future to come, it should then be part of our history content. So how we do that, it should be the next dialogue in terms of how we get it done. Because there are so many of these hidden voices now speaking directly to your project. There are so many of these hidden voices. We were just sitting at the back there asking ourselves, where is the Mzala Nxumalo office? You know, it would be better located here in Mbali somewhere. But because of its location, how many kids do actually know about Mzala Nxumalo? Perhaps Mzala Nxumalo is even distant. How many kids in Mbali Stage 1 know about Jabu Ndlovu? We are having an event that is taking place in the evening during the week. Where is our target people that should actually know and understand this history and should be a part of it? It's the people at home. So it means the ground for this project is still very fertile. So we are going to support the project going further. I know that the Jabu Ndlovu Foundation has on many cases been talking about writing history. And in fact, it has been more of a documentary discussion rather than writing a book. We hope that this is both writing history in terms of a documentary and in terms of a book. We hope that both the history can then at some stage be put together so that it can be taken to one place. It should never be a competition of the different NPOs or the different foundations, but we all have one goal. We all have one goal, and the one goal is so that heritage for everyone is owned by each and every person that is in South Africa. So on that note, thank you very much for reprinting the book. We are going to be supporting and right behind you. Amandla.
I'm now going to ask Comrade Nkondwana to come up, who served with Jabu during that time. And I'm glad we're recording this, because this is kind of history in its telling and its making. Comrade, over to you.
Mandla. Mandla. Qina Nomsa, qina. Qina Jabu Ndlovu, qina. Long live undying Comrade Jabu Ndlovu, long live. Correct. Let me agree to all Comrade here in this house, and also great the team of Nxumalo Center, and also great the leaders of all the unions are here, and also the leaders of the community, and NOMSA members are here, and also the community in large. Mandla. Firstly, comrade, let me apologize for the regional secretary, Comrade Mbuso. He was supposed to be here and address because of other functionaries in the region in Durban. That is why he's not here, and also he is accompanied with Comrade Tsibane, who is the chairperson of the province of KwaZulu-Natal in Nomsa. Correct. The unfortunate part, I'm not a right candidate to talk about Jabu. Besides to be a shop steward to Jabu at that time, I was in a company called Norton Pearson and Jacobs in Durban. And Jabu also coming where I coming from at Impendle. So for me, beside to be heard as my colleague to be a shop steward at Nomsa, and also coming where I coming from at Impendle. The last unfortunate part, she's coming from a family of Ndlovu where I born because my mother Mzala Ndlovu. So that is why I'm saying I'm not a right person to talk about Jabu Ndlovu, because I'm headed deeply in my heart. So, community, Jabu was a shop steward in a very bad and crucial time. By that time, there were very few female agreed to be in the shop steward because of the environment of that time if you were a part of the union. So the time was assassinated and his family. We were coming from Congress in Joburg. I think, community, Comrade Nkosazane speaking the Lord of what was a role of Comrade Jabu in a community, in a union. But for us as Nomsa, by that time, we were even respected by the whole regions, because in Nomsa we not call provinces, we call regions. Because we were had a female comrade was like Jabu. Because all the 8, if it's not 9 regions, all the complaining about one thing, they can't find a strong comrade like Jabu in their regions. But again, comrade, we like to thanks again to Mzala to bring up this history of Jabu. Even though, as Nomsa, when you talk about Jabu, we are coming like a people are not strong enough to stand and firm and talk about the person. It's just because as we speak now, we do have our comrade are strong in asebenza kahle from the various structures. But asebenza kahle now, they are working very nice now because we are here at Mbali in a hall. There's a light. We speak, no fear. We don't scared. No one can come in and kill us. There's no police can come and take us to the prison because of Sifugelo Mboso. Now we are free. One comrade said to us this week when we heard about this program, he stand and firm and said to us, you're not going to come to the Jabu event when the Jabu event is taking place here at Mbali. He will be only come when this event is not in Mbali. Because he was the one, again, he was going a lot of trenches with Jabu and doing the work of taking out the black people in the apartheid regime. Because he knows Uguti here in Peter Marisburg, which is the places, they were the corner of sitting of the comrade and discuss and strategize how we can turn over the apartheid regime. The reason why, comrade, we are saying that is because in a time where now we can stand and firm politically because we are in democracy, we are even leading the country. But that's where you can't find the strong comrade and stand and firm, be accountable, as the comrade was saying. There's no one can stand enough accountable now in this time around. But that's where we are shouting about the comrade which can take this country forward. We'll be always remember comrade Jabu, comrade, because asisezukuba nawo comrade anjalo njengamanje. In this point in time, if you talk the politics, comrade, we should be stand firm in a one corner and make it sure we go every corner to ensure abantu batholi service abayidingayo, just because manje akasekho umuntu osijaha ngemuva okufanele masibulale ngoba senze service kubantu. Kodwa ilesi sikhathi manje esihluleka ngaso ukuthi sibe ngandawonye uqinisekisa ukuthi we are changing the lives of the people. But the unfortunate again, comrade, is that as NUMSA, we are still radical as we were radical since we formed NUMSA in 1987. That is why Comrade Jabu in 1989 was assassinated, because it was the culture of NUMSA by then until today. And we are not ashamed as NUMSA to not be the loved ones of other people just because we stand firm as NUMSA. Even if comrade, sike saba naso isikhathi njenge NUMSA esifanayo nesika 89, and we told our comrade wethu ukuthi now we are not going to be turning back. It's a time where if some of us can be assassinated like Jabu, let it be. Because we are remembering ukuthi Comrade Jabu was standing firm in a very crucial time. That is why he was targeted and assassinated. We are here, comrade, to pay tribute to the family As I'm going to the end, we'd like to thanks to the family of Jabu. We'd like to thanks to their kids, to their brothers, to let us Jabu be a shop swat by that time, because she take the name of Numsa and also the woman in large to be the one of the person who was changing the things in our country. Therefore, we are looking forward, comrade, to abantu abangazalwa babe njengoJabu once again. Comrade Webster, you come to this idea to bring the hidden voices up in a time where you call yourself you're Madala. We are looking forward to introduce another comrade to be like Jabu, even though can't be the Jabu. But those history for our kids, they should become a land. Where are we coming from with this democracy? That is why we are saying thanks very much for this book. And we will be always behind you and always behind the family, whereby to promote and make sure the name of Jabu is not going to be forgotten. That is why we name our regional office as Jabu. We are very happy again with the leaders of the Pietermaritzburg, again to acknowledge Jabu, with call Jabu with other places in Pietermaritzburg, like one of the big roads in Pietermaritzburg. We are very happy about that. And every time when you talk about those things, we remember Jabu in a different ways. We're happy because he was a hero. He changed the lives of the people. And also we're getting sad because of saying if he take time to be alive, maybe he was changing more things, more than what they did in that particular time. With those few words, comrade, as NUMSA, we like to saying we are fully behind and support all the things been done by Mzala, and also we are behind the family and all their people are closing to them, even the community as well. We posed the challenge to say, in this area here at Mbali, let's try by all means, comrade, to introduce another woman or another family will work harder like those comrades in order to change the lives of the people. I want to add by saying, comrade, rather than we kill one another, we rather, there's my comrade here, comrade to Giama. We're coming so far with this comrade. At a time, we are not look eye to eye. But for him and me, at no stage, he was thinking things are wrong with me, and also I will never think something wrong with him. And Kiama knows the strengths of the NUMSA as we know the strengths of his organization. That is why he's here to support the things of Committee Jabu, because he knows at all times his NUMSA is radical, but in a correct manner. Mandla! Mandla!
I'm going to open it perhaps to anyone here who wants to say anything. There might be people who know the family or knew Comrade Jabu, or maybe Kasatu just wants to say something. But I'm opening it to the floor if there's anybody who wants to say something.
Bengicela uqale ngibonge nje igama lami nguSandile ngokadlala. Ngiqhamuka lo khona la e2 kuthiwa iBeirut ka Ward 15. For me it's more of a question. Hlambe going forward we would maybe recommend the answer to tweak some of the things that we do, especially when we are going to be writing history, especially about women. I nearly said we as Africans, we as a human beings, we are in an unrevolving state of patriarchy. When you hear of when a lay person like me who doesn't read that much, when you hear of Jabu Ndlovu, you don't think of a woman. You think of a man, because the struggle is dominated by abantu besilisa, and we do have abantu besilisa ababizwa ngoJabu. So I wanted to ask, what was what had stopped from those who were renaming the streets bambiza ngawo Mama Jabu? Why couldn't they use the full name of Mama Jabulile Ndlovu and not to Jabu? Because for us it's a bit ambiguous, because we do have males ababizwa ngoJabu. Sifuna kuba Mama Jabulile, so that people will know that there was a female beast amongst us. So that was my question. Ngiyabonga kakhulu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mada. No, we can assure you, Comrade Facilitator, we are not here to contest, Comrade Nkonto. That's not our intention. And for your information, by the way, we have named the Kosatu cluster here in the district, Jabu Ndlovu cluster, and we are not about to change it. It's fine when our comrades in NUMSA have named their office Jabu Ndlovu House. But just one little point that I wanted to make also, I think Comrade Konta touched on it, is the issue that we are faced with now in the country. The fragmentation of the working class formations and the manner in which we are contributing as revolutionaries ourselves, particularly trade unions. You see, capital, they may compete among themselves. But when the bottom line is threatened, the profits of the bourgeois is threatened, they close ranks. We seem not to be able to do that ourselves. We seem to compete too much among ourselves when value-added tax, for instance, goes up, when petrol prices, when food prices go up. They don't ask you if you are NUMSA or you are AMKU or you are what. They just attack everyone. So I think it's something that we need, perhaps, the center, because we are going to take you on what you have committed to here. That thing of facilitation of these debates on an ongoing basis, and political education, particularly of the class, building class consciousness among our people, regardless of which organizations they belong to, because at the end of the day, their issues, they are the same. That's just a small contribution I needed to make. Thanks, Will.
An important point there about class consciousness. It's a part of the debate that I think has been overlooked for too long a time. And we need to, across the divides, build solidarity of the worker, not just in South Africa, but internationally. The workers in America should not be loading the chicken that's going to come here and take away jobs here. And the workers here should not be offloading that chicken if it does get here.
No, thanks, comrades. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Perhaps one should start by acknowledging the significance of being in this hall. Manae Hall, comrades. I think history teaches us that before Mandela was arrested, he was addressing a rally or a meeting, a political meeting in this hall, and later he was arrested in Howick. And we should not forget that, comrade. I think it's not coincidental, therefore, that we are remembering this gallant hero, Jabu Ndlovu, in this venue. I think it's of significance, important, comrades. Now, comrade, we must also appreciate, you know, Maubona Unumsa and Kosatu engaging. There is a hope, comrade, because from the South African Communist Party point of view, SAFTU and COSATU represent the working class. So from where we are sitting, we want this formation to speak, but it's promising today. That is the working class, comrade. That we must, comrade Giamak, speak of fragmentation. We want to end the fragmentation. Comrade, as I was coming here, I was asking myself, what is it that I can do as an individual? Or perhaps as the mass democratic formations, comrade, structures that we lead. What is it that we should do in order to honor comrade Jabu Ndlovu? There are many things, comrade, that we could do. I think there are many other ideas that can come from different comrades or activists within us that we could say. But there is one that came to my mind, that perhaps my contribution and the contribution of the mass democratic movement in remembering comrade Jabu, it would be never to dishonor the cause of struggle, comrade. It would be never to betray the values, the principles, and perhaps the ideology that comrade Jabu stood for. I think that would be the greatest contribution that we as activists today, we can emulate from comrade Jabu. By the way, I might as well add that from the South African Communist Party point of view, we are having a Jabu Ndlovu branch, and that is operating, comrade, in town. So, you know, this name, comrade Jabu, is contested from all mass democratic movements. And we shall forever, comrade, honor his memory. But again, one of the things that fascinates me currently, comrade, is this notion or question of the national democratic revolution. It's a concept that from time to time within our formations that we talk about. But it's a concept again that somehow currently loses its meaning as we move forward, comrade. By the way, the concept of the national democratic movement has been also used by other countries in Africa when they won their liberation. Some of them socialist countries where they intended to move to socialism. By the way, as communists, we believe that the NDR is the shortest route to socialism. But there are other countries that did not graduate from NDR to socialism due to many factors, comrade. I was worried when I look at the direction upon which we, as the mass democratic movement or the alliance led by the African National Congress, the direction that we are taking, comrade. When I read the NDR, because the NDR, amongst many other things, teaches us that when we take South Africa, there will be a total transformation of the country from bourgeois mode of thinking to the working class-led government. However, what we see today, comrade, it's a little bit shocking. One is finding himself thinking that, are we going to be other countries whereby liberation has turned such that it then ends up into counter-revolutionaries and people do not benefit out of a struggle. Those are the things, those are the questions when you see circumstances that are happening within our environment, comrades. There are many things, comrades. As communists, we are saying we should be in the constant state of analysis, analyzing the current conditions. Are we still on the right track now in advancing our NDR? There are many things that we are seeing, comrade. But amongst many things that we are seeing, we should therefore ask ourselves, what is it that we have done? What is it that has gone wrong? what is this that we can contribute towards a revolution yet such that it is directed into a direction that is correct. We are of the view that, comrade, currently, as we are facing an endemic corruption in the state, as we are facing, comrades, political killings amongst comrades, as we are facing the decay, revolutionary morality within comrades themselves, what is it that we can do? I think Comrade Giyama has briefly touched on it. The many challenges that we are facing, comrade, also emanates from the point that we have aborted, there has been an abortion of political education. We have aborted political education such that the members and leadership that are leading our formations, comrade, you wonder at times with what is it that has happened to us that we are no longer leading in an exemplary fashion. And there could be many other things, comrade, that could be said that should assist in redirecting the movement and ensuring that we pursue the socialist-orientated NDR that we envisaged. I would pause it here because I know that there could be many solutions from different comrades. Thank you very much. Amanda.
Thanks, comrade. Firstly, comrade, if I can answer the question of why we name the office Jabu not to Jabulile. Ngapha phesha kwenciba comrade usibongile sazi ngapha kwaZulu ukuthi umuntu wesifazana ngale uyabiza umuntu wesilisa ngusibongile. I'm trying to address this issue of Jabu as a man. Jabulile, it's a woman. But thina njengeNomsa, why we prefer ukumbiza ngoJabu is because since he joined the struggle of Nomsa, being a shop steward, to be a member of a Nomsa before she became a shop steward, she was Jabu. Everyone in Nomsa, when you're talking about Jabu, she knows or he knows Utubanu Jabu. A person live it in Bali, when you're talking about Jabu Ndlovu, she or he knows who's Jabu Ndlovu. But I think program director, we have to stop this debate here. Because I'm tempted to engage. But I don't know, is it inconducive to engage here? Because Comrade Giyama, today when you debate, when I'm debating against you, I'm no longer a member of the ANC. You name me, I'm a member of somebody else. That is the biggest problem. When I'm saying I'm tempted by the last speaker, that is why I'm saying maybe we must organize another day and open our chest to say, comrade, we are here to debate honestly, even if ungqobile ubhozo angizophuma ngikuthele eminyango. Because in ANC now, comrade Ngiyama and also Communist Party, when you debate against the comrade, you are a member of DA, you are a member of Inkatha, you are a member of somebody else. You're no longer a member of the ANC because I'm disagree with you. So that is the biggest problem. When I'm saying I'm tempted, Communist Party, when we get time to engage, there is a questions Tina Nxumalo we should be asked. could I still have event card or not? Just to be open. So that is why I'm saying, let's close this debate. Singaqhubeki now because of umoya. Because that is why ngizothi qina safu to qina. Qina safu to qina. You see, that is why we shouldn't say that. If our vanguard, they were still strong. I'm not saying anything, comrade. That's why I'm saying I'm not going to be tempted. But let's try to find another time to debate.
I think as today we are celebrating the lifestyle of Jabu Ndlovu, it reminds me a lot of things, probably during early 70s. One will remember that time when Jabu was very active. I was a member of the DCO Matiwan Youth League, of which this was the first formation in Greater Itindale, was led by comrade Sipo Shes Ntopoy, of which the DCO Matiwane Youth League was led by comrade Sipo Shes, of which was very active around Marsberg that time. And at the very same time, on the other side, there was a working class who was actually active at the very same time. It was Fosatu. Fosatu, in fact, as we know that comrade Jabu was a member of the NUMSA. One will remember that NUMSA at that time, probably as comrade was saying, that we were propagating the views of the Marxist workers' tendencies, Trotsky, by the way, of which that is the whole argument between Lenin and the Trotsky. That's the old debate. We've always been debating these issues, even with the Communist Party, of which some people were supporting, Trotsky views, and some were supporting Comrade Lenin. There's an old debate from Russia, of which even today we're still engaged in the very same debate. At the very same time, Ndlovu was active in NUMSA. We were active in the Tisomatiwan Youth League, and right at Imbal there was a EO. In Soban there was a Soyo. If you take it back to the early 70s to the late 70s, I think Marsberg was that time was very much rich in terms of contributing some of the leaders. One will remember in 1979, some of the comrades from the Tisomatiwan Youth League was sentenced to life imprisonment. One of the comrades is Comrade Noting Gobo. I think now he's right in Durban. Comrade Benti Kobe Martin. I think now is the minister today. They were sentenced, a number of comrades were sentenced. Even that time we were forced, even myself, I was forced to go to Lesotho to underground work. Because now we're tired of, throwing boas with the stones. So now we think of other things to make our struggle to be more active. So now we decided to send some of the comrades outside to Lesotho to undergo training. So therefore, on the other hand, the workers were busy, pushing the struggle in order to make the point that at least as the workers are liberated. As Umama Jabu was very active in the trade unionist movement, of which contributed a lot. Because that time, one will remember, there were very few people that were actually elite, who actually understand our struggle clearly. Because, some of the people that time were not very much educated as today. So now, but this, trade unionists was also being our sanctuary in our struggle as we move forward. So therefore now, her contribution praise the Lord. As we come together today, celebrating the life of Mam Jabu. I mean, it also being a catalyst in our struggle moving forward. So therefore, to get this opportunity to launch his books, to me, is a remembrance of the olden days where we were able to fight apartheid. It was not easy. I remember at some stage, if I'm not mistaken, it was 1980. Dr. Kuranov was expected to come at Imbali to meet with the councillors of Imbali. But due to that spirit that we have been given by other workers, we're able to stop Stornkov to come to Imbali. So now, I think the Mzala Foundation, they must carry on acknowledging some of the people who were able to contribute in our struggle. Thank you.
Amandla. Okay, I'm no longer Jabu Ndlovu's daughter, just for this moment. I'm the district secretary of the SACP. For now. We are the vanguard of the working class. Yes. COSATU is part of the working class. NUMSA is part of the working class. We are not the vanguard of COSATU. We are in the alliance with COSATU, yes. But the working class as a whole, whether organized or unorganized, is led by the SACP in South Africa and abroad. Yes. So, Comrade NUMSA, we are going to take you on the debate. In the name of Comrade Jabu, I'm glad Comrade Zihamba right manje, because this is what we should be discussing. Ngabe kubuhlungu kube sithi sizo-celebrate impilo yaComrade uJabu sikhuluma ngama-possessions noma sikhuluma ngama-factions. Kodwa manje sikhuluma nge-working class ukuthi yini okufanele ngabe iyenzeke. Fanele sithathe iphi direction. I-right kakhulu manje. Mhlambi yona le gathering ebekade siyidinga. So ingakho bekufanele ngikhumulele likapisi le ndodakazi kaJabu ngibe district secretary ke manje. Ukuze ngikwazi ukulibamba leli kapisi phela ngikwazi ukulahla leliya. Noma ngabe ngilapha funa ngibuye ngazi ukuthi ngiliphethe ngiyalihudula la ngihamba khona. So we will take you on the debate, but going forward, I think my contribution in this manner, i-target kakhulu yethu should be more PYA with these kind of programs, Progressive Youth Alliance. Let's agree, comrades, we are living in a state, a very difficult state, because technology is almost replacing the culture yokufunda enganeni. So what we should be debating is, how are we going to ensure that these books that we are writing, how are we going to get our kids to write the books? They spend so much time on Facebook, so much time on WhatsApp. How do we get them to actually read a book? You know how difficult it is to get your children to read a book. Maybe it should be a program that should be even speaking to parents at home. How do I get my child to read, a 16-year-old to read, instead of sitting on Facebook? What are they gaining from Facebook? They are getting porn. They are listening to political leaders who are swearing at each other. So we are actually we think that we are dealing with a crisis when in fact we are not dealing with the root of what the crisis is. We are here as adults and our children again are at home and are exposed to none of what we are doing at this point. So this is where our debates should be based. So we need more programs, more of the PYA should be involved. As it stands, I'm saying PYA as in all the youth alliances, whether it be ANC or even the civic organizations that are led by youth. We need the progressive youth alliances together so that we are able to instill the culture of reading. If we need to develop strategies to make reading fashionable, we need to do exactly that. Amandla.
Thanks. I think it's difficult to address after what discreet secretary. But neither it's not the view of Isanko no Eslar, Agone Isanko. this is one thing that maybe I think I need to put an emphasis on. The emphasis is that, you know, when we engage, we must start to understand that who's supposed to be benefiting from those engagements. You see, most of the history of the movement or anything that has happened, most of comrades here were part of those in the early 80s, in the 90s. So it means you can bear testimony because you were part of those things. Now, how then do you make sure that someone who was 5 years at that time can understand? Because the challenge that we have currently is that we don't have people who can inspire young people to do great. You need female leaders who can able to inspire other female leaders. So it's key what Umpio was raising to say, it should not be left aside to say, Umamu Jabu was a female. So that part of the debate or the discussions, she's going to inspire other women to do like her. Because really, in our culture, uJabu ngokwethu ungathi umuntu wesilisa. So singagcina ekhuthaze thina kuphela. That is one. But no, but I agree with you. What we must start to do as the MDM formations is to make our formations fashionable. You see, we are still in the same level of political education, the way we are structured, whilst there's technology that is moving to a particular direction. Maybe we need to try and shift. Use those space, but those space to be spaces that can be able to enhance our capacity and even be fashionable. You know, if you can do it best today, how many young people can attend? So it means you must start to say all these programs that attract young people, we must somehow put these political elements so that they're able to sharpen them and be able to make them at least better people in life. That was my contribution.
Thank you. I think that this last session we had is a beginning of something, and I want to throw a challenge here, if I may. Comrade Ngonyama, Percy, sorry if you could just, is busy writing Mzala's biography, right? But he has a unique talent for reading and writing. Ah, right. So the center has a resource. We've got an office in Bourgeois Northern Park, but we can use transport to get here. So I'm asking the comrades, the leadership here. There's nothing stopping us from having a reading and writing circle here in Manae Hall once a month, where we take a text, whether it's Mzala writing about, I don't know if you remember, cooking rice inside of the pot, or the artist as liberator, or his chapter on the national question. There's nothing stopping us. There's also nothing stopping us from doing something from Lenin, Stalin, Trotsky, the Trotskyists. We have traditions in South Africa, comrade. I know exactly. The Trotskyists and the Leninists are always at each other. It's one of the reasons why I can't seem to get a SACP card. But I would like to put that challenge. We have minimal resources, but we have them. But what we do have is political will to want to make it happen. So I'm challenging, I'm not going to run after anyone. I'm challenging, if this is that important, comrade, and I agree with you, we had a conference of the left in Durban. It was the first time we had Abahlali, SACP, EFF, ANC, student movements all in one room. There was no bloodshed. Because we contested ideas, not people. So I would like to say we can have something similar here. We can save some money and have a colloquium conference, whatever you want to call it here, where we bring together all these voices and we battle out ideology. The weakness of our struggle and our revolution is we've lost our grip on our ideology. And I think we need to go back to that. And Comrade, your comment about getting children to read, it's a good one. And maybe we should, with the foundation, start thinking about taking this book and making it our first project at a school. The one nearby, there's one right nearby here. And saying, we're going to, on a Saturday morning, there's, what is that lady, Ginamklop is Zanele, Ntuli. There's a woman who loves storytelling. We can ask her to come once a month on a Saturday to the school and read this book. So that's the challenge I'm putting out there. I'm going to wrap up now because there's food at the back and we're going to eat. And sometimes food is more of a pull for me. I'm just going to ask our chair of the Mzala Nxumalo board, John Pampalis, to just give a vote of thanks. And then we will break for our meal at the back.
I'd just like to thank everybody, in particular our speakers, who spoke so well, so engagingly. We had a trade unionist who knew Jabu, worked with her. We had an intellectual leader, Eddie Webster, who's been involved with the trade union movement since the 1970s. And we've also had Lutle, Jabu Ndlovu's daughter, who spoke so very touchingly and engagingly about her mother. The discussion was a very interesting discussion, and a lot of it centered on unity, worker unity, the unity of the left. But I think one thing that we didn't mention today is that unity is being fragmented within a movement now. Lutle spoke about how her mother's death impacted in such a traumatic way on the family. The same thing is happening now, and it's getting worse, in particular in this province. And I think one of the things we need to think about as time goes on is how do we stop that violence? Stop it so that it doesn't continue in a spiral and get worse and worse and worse. Anyway, also I would just like to thank everybody who came here to pay tribute to Jabu Ndlovu, to hear about the book, and to discuss their own thoughts, to put forward their ideas and to listen to other people's ideas. Thank you very much.